Hello whisky fans, I've got some Highland Park, quite a lot of Highland Park. You've seen these two before. This is the first batch of the cask strength, and this is the Highland Park 10-year-old Viking scars, which I've reviewed already, but these two are new in their rather fancy bottles. So we've got Highland Park Viking Tribe, which is a no-age statement whisky, and this rather fetching little fella, Highland Park 15 Viking Heart. So this is quite a new release. It's only been available for a couple of weeks now, so I've had delivery of this fairly recently and I have cracked it open. So yeah, it's kind of like yin and yang, light and dark, sort of the evil empire and the Jedis, something like that. Apart from the fact that both of these whiskies are presented in very swish looking, almost designer bottles, they are actually very different whiskies. This one is a relatively high strength and relatively affordable no age statement whisky. This one obviously has an age statement, slightly lower ABV actually, and it's also kind of pricey. But anyway, today I'm going to be taking a look at the Viking Tribe no age statement whisky. So we'll put that one aside for now, save that little treat for another day. I must admit that Highland Park is, you might have guessed, one of my favourite distilleries, and I'll be the first to admit that a lot of that is down to nostalgia, because Highland Park, the 12-year-old, it was probably the first whisky that I got really excited about. It really clicked with me and I thought, this is more than just a drink. This thing called whisky is really something special. And I became a little bit of a Highland Park fanboy. But looking back, those whiskies like the Highland Park 12-year-old and the new 10-year-old, which is also 40%, when you start to know your way around the whisky world, at 40% with their semi-chill filtration, their at times unnatural colouring, they don't quite tick all the boxes for us serious malt enthusiasts. And I'm the first to say that because of those low ABVs and also a little bit of the quality control problems that they had with the 12-year-old over the last sort of 10 or 10 plus years, I did stop buying Highland Park for a long time. But I think we all remember our first love. I kind of feel like it's my personal mission now to find that modern Highland Park that sort of reignites that fire and brings back all of those memories. So let's see if we can do that. So Highland Park Viking Tribe, it is no age statement whisky, as I said, comes in this almost completely opaque dark glass. So I think this is probably coated or something like that. I imagine if you chipped it, this colour might come off. Because it is incredibly dark, it has actually been around for quite a long time. I think the reason why I was unaware of this one is because I think that it's been an Amazon exclusive for quite a long time, possibly still is. So if you want to buy a bottle of this, you've basically got no choice but to go to Amazon. There's a few bottles that are making their way out to other retailers, but basically Amazon and Highland Park have struck up a deal where this is basically an Amazon product made by Highland Park. As for the details on the label, we haven't got a lot to go on at all, really. You would think, being such dark glass, that it might be natural colour. There's a little bit in the glass there. So, reasonably natural looking, but we don't really know. There is absolutely no mention of chill filtration or non-chill filtration. So there's some vague information out there that sort of leads you to believe that this might be either non-chill filtered or chill filtered at a relatively high temperature, but basically we don't know and they haven't bothered to tell us. But the thing that really got me excited about this one is that it is 46% ABV. So anyone that's been watching my channel for a while will know that I love Highland Park, but my main problem with a 12-year-old is the ABV. I think that Highland Park is a wonderful style, but it's a style that does not do well at low strengths. I think it's a reasonably light and delicate style, and it needs to be probably around 46% or higher to really showcase its flavours properly. So when I saw this one, reasonably affordable, I think it's around about the mid £30, range if you buy it from Amazon, and at that higher ABV. Okay, it's a shame that there's no age statement, but I was thinking maybe this may be the equivalent of the Highland Park 12-year-old for me, for us whiskey drinkers that like our whiskies full flavour, full strength. We also don't know what casks have been used in this, although again, if you do some detective work digging around online, there are some references to refill casks. So from that, we can basically assume that because it's no age statement, because the price is reasonable, and they say real refill casks, or you can really conclude that there's probably no or little fresh bourbon casks and definitely very little in the way of first fill European oak gone into this. So it's probably quite an economical production. Another thing that I was really disappointed about on this one, anyone that follows me on Twitter may have seen that I actually posted a question and tagged Highland Park on Twitter about the fill level of this bottle, because when I got this, even though it's dark glass, felt a little bit light to me, and I shone a light through the bottle and sent a photo of the sealed bottle and posted that on Twitter with Highland Park tagged, because the fill level was actually down here, sort of just past the shoulder. Anyone out there that's got a full bottle of this, if they could confirm whether that's normal or not, what I really should have done is tipped it all out and measured how much there was, or possibly weighed it before and after emptying it, something like that. I didn't do that, I just opened it, but I didn't actually get a reply at all from Highland Park, which is piss poor really. Pretty poor customer services. But anyway, Highland Park, 46%. Let's get some in the glass and see if it's everything we hope for. So, Highland Park Viking Tribe no age statement on the nose. So instantly identifiable as a Highland Park whisky. Doesn't smell overly old as you would probably expect. There's definitely a dry smokiness, definitely some nice notes of salted peat. I would say that it's reasonably spirit forward, at least on the nose, and that spiritiness presents itself as an orangey note, so quite a dry oranginess like orange pith. Also comes across, I think I said this about the Highland Park 10-year-old Viking scars as well, it does come across as a little bit modern, a little bit messed around. I'm getting some notes of gingery oak spice in there, so perhaps some modern engineered oak, a little bit of a forced maturation. But there's plenty of flavours in there, and it's definitely helped by that higher strength of 46%. Thank you so much, if anyone from Highland Park is watching this, for offering a whisky at a proper strength. Really appreciated. Whether we like this one or not, it's definitely a step in the right direction, and I really hope that you'll continue to do this in future. Getting some notes of licorice, salty licorice, a little bit of tobacco. Despite what I said about this probably being an economical production, and you can guess what casks go into that from the price point and the fact that they've said refill casks, I am actually getting some sort of hints of sherry casks coming through on this. So from that, a little bit of the spice, a little bit of the oranginess, and maybe some of that tobacco, that sort of spicy European oak cask type notes. And maybe it's hard to tell because you can get a lot of sweetness from a bourbon cask, but I think some of that background sweetness might be coming through from some sherry, maybe some sherry seasoned oak casks as well. So that's pretty good. There's some variety there. No matter what you say about this whisky, there is a depth of flavours there. There's lots of notes to pick out. So in my book, that can only be a good thing. As for the age of this, it's not the most mature whisky around. It's not the most mature whisky that I've had from Highland Park lately. I think there's a reason why this is a no-age statement whisky, and that's not to say it's a bad whisky, but there is definitely a slight rough spiritiness to the nose of this one. You can tell, in my opinion, that this is probably quite a bit younger than even 10 years old. So overall on the nose, I would say pretty pleasant, reasonably robust, but also a little bit simple and youthful. Let's see how it tastes. Getting some smoky honey And I'd say on the palate, it is a little bit closed and young on the arrival, but I'm getting some more orangey maltiness, a little bit of peppery spice. And I think towards the late palate, getting some more bitter notes, especially late on the palate, I'm getting some kind of dark roast coffee notes. Now, a little bit of bitterness in drinks and food and everything is not a bad thing. Bitterness is interesting, providing it's balanced and kind of kept in check and not too much. But I would say that the bitter notes that I'm getting on this one, it just comes over, maybe it's coming through from the youth a little bit too much, and maybe some of those casks have been a little bit forced and not quite perfectly balanced. It's perhaps a sign of the youth of this whisky. As for the finish, I'm getting some more sort of traditional Highland Park appley notes, some more smoky honey, clove, sort of more licorice, bitter salty licorice on the late palate and finish, and some more of those lovely Highland Park subtle medicinal qualities. So, in summary, this no-age statement Highland Park Viking Tribe, does it tick all the boxes? Does it give me, and I'm sure a lot of you guys out there who have been disappointed that the ABV has just been kept so disappointingly low on the standard Highland Parks, is it what we've all been praying for all of these years? It's definitely got much more power than the 12-year-old, but I'd say that the price for that increased power is a slight lack of maturity. And also, if you're a fan of your sherry in your Highland Park whiskies, I think there's less sherry influence, definitely less fresh sherry influence on this one than there is on the 12-year-old. I would also say, and I feel bad for saying this because they've given us a 46% presentation in a Highland Park, but I think it's still that little bit underpowered. And it hurts me to say that because I don't want to put them off 46 presentations in future, because we need the ABV behind Highland Park to really carry those flavours. But I think Highland Park is such a delicate style. Even at 46%, this is as weak as we can tolerate it. The nose, it might just be a combination of the fact that Highland Park is such a light style and this is a slightly young whisky. You're not getting the robustness of aromas and definitely not the robustness of the flavours on the palate that you should expect from a 46% craft presentation. Definitely a good value whisky. I don't have any problems recommending people to buy a bottle of this stuff if you can get it for kind of £30-35, definitely no more than that. Especially if you are a long-suffering Highland Park fan like myself. You've got to think that this stuff sells for about the same price as the 12-year-old, and for that money you're getting a better ABV, and you're just losing a little bit of the age and a little bit of the sherry influence. So I think it's a good value malt, and probably better value than the 12-year-old, but still that little bit disappointing. And I think that's mainly just down to a little bit of immaturity, and it just hasn't quite got that age and the complexity to quite satisfy. It makes me think of the Highland Park Valfather, which was another no-age statement Highland Park, but I think that one was at 47% ABV. And I thought that was a really nice little whisky, a little bit more expensive than this one, but I think that the maltiness and the peat are both accentuated in the Highland Park Valfather. But a lot of people, when I looked at other people's reviews, criticised the Valfather for being a bit young. And I don't think that Valfather is an old whisky, but I think that it's plenty old and mature enough to be an enjoyable Highland Park. Whereas this one, I think, has those problems, but in my opinion, they really start to become problems. So if you're the kind of person that didn't like the Valfather because, as a lot of people said, that it was that little bit young and immature, definitely stay away from this one. But me personally, I think this is a worthwhile one. It's a fun little whisky, and I hope that Highland Park have a positive experience from bottling this at a proper strength, and they continue to do so in future. As for a grade, I'm going to give this one a B-, which is exactly the same mark as I gave to the Highland Park 10-year-old Viking Scars. But this time, whereas this one was held back by the ABV, as a lot of Highland Park is, this one is held back about in equal measures, but probably from the youth. So I hope you've enjoyed this video, and anyone out there that's got a bottle of this, I'd love to hear what you think of this one, and especially if anyone can confirm that fill level being very low on my bottle. Was I swindled there? Or is that just how they fill these bottles? Because they are a different shape, slightly different shape to most of the other sort of core expression bottles. Subtly, maybe slightly narrower at the top, especially inside profile. Maybe that's just how they are. But anyway, thanks for watching, and cheers.